Hello, I'm Annette Young and welcome to the 51%, a show about women reshaping our world. Coming up, we head to Egypt where a campaign is underway to convince families on the negative impact of child marriage, but many still not wanting to hear the message. Also, how an international outcry forced the government in Sierra Leone to reverse its ban on pregnant teenagers receiving an education. And how here in France we may now have a record number of women in Parliament, but they are still struggling to get their voices heard. But we begin in Egypt, where girls under 18 are continuing to get married. The country's lawmakers having announced recently that they're moving to impose measures against child marriage. Yet in rural areas where the tradition is widespread, many families have no intention of changing their minds, as our team on the ground found out.
Negla is 15 years old. Although barely beyond childhood, in a few months she will have to leave her family to move in with her husband. In her village, like many in Egypt's rural areas, child marriages are widespread.
It's normal, commonplace to be engaged at my age. It's the same for all my friends. There are even girls who were married before I was. Some of them even have children, even though they're my age.
When the proposals started arriving, I was a bit anxious. I refused, but with this pressure from everyone, I accepted. As everyone said, she'll end up beyond marrying age and then never get married, so I accepted.
According to Egypt's national statistics body, 40% of women under the age of 18 are married. But according to women's rights groups, the real numbers are far greater, as child marriages often go unrecorded. This traditional practice is also linked to economic factors. It allows the flow of funds from a dowry to support a family. Negla's aunts and her mother were all married when they were children.
To support us all, my father had us all married off by 14. That way the boys have more of a place in the house, they sleep more comfortably and they can save more food for them. Everyone behaves this way in the villages because life's hard here. A husband thinks he's indebted to us if he marries our daughter.
Marriage under the age of 18 has been illegal under Egyptian law since 2008. But the sheikhs of the village continue to illegally sanction marriage between minors. Sihem Ali is a lawyer in a women's rights organization. She believes there are two solutions to effectively fight against child marriage.
We need a strict law criminalizing this practice, but above all, we must raise awareness among families. If society isn't well prepared, people won't accept this law and will continue to dodge it. That's what's happening right now.
There is a need to strengthen the law while explaining to families that these illegal marriages will not guarantee a better future for their daughters. A considerable task while the country battles an ongoing economic crisis.
Now, teenage pregnancy is a problem that affects many countries in the developing world. For instance, 1 in 3 women who fall pregnant in Sierra Leone are underage. In 2015, the government banned visibly pregnant girls from school, claiming that teenagers would have set a bad example for their peers. But thanks to an international outcry, the government has now set up alternative classes for them.
At 17 years old, Fatmata is pregnant with her second child. She had her first when she was 15. Both Fatmata and her cousin were forced to leave school when their pregnancies started to show because of a ban by the government, who consider girls like them a bad example to their peers.
I wasn't happy because I could see my friends and the girls from my village going to school, but I couldn't because I was pregnant, and then I had to take care of my child. It's not what I wished, but I've got no other option.
1 in 3 women who fall pregnant in Sierra Leone are underage. Under international pressure not to stop these girls from receiving an education, last year the government set up alternative classes for them. This would allow them to continue going to school, but with a reduced curriculum and without needing to interact with their peers. The boys who get them pregnant, meanwhile, don't face the same restrictions.
It's counterproductive to isolate a male teenager only because he has impregnated a female teenager, you are more or less, it's two evils, okay? They are not pregnant, the male. The female, they are, visibly. That's the difference there.
The government says the scheme is a success because 5,000 of the 14,000 girls in the schools for young mothers last year later went back to mainstream education. But that still means more than half slipped through the net.
The fact that they are pregnant doesn't mean that their education ends with that. So our position, and we have made it clear to the Minister of Education, is that we want these girls to be in school and not be discriminated. But at the same time, we are working in a context where the government is not actually allowing that.
UNICEF backs the alternative schools as an interim measure, but says they don't address the root causes of teenage pregnancy. Sex education is still not taught in schools, leaving NGOs to step in to provide this information. With funding for the special schools only running until next March, thousands of young girls like Fatmata may soon be left with no choice but to abandon their education completely.
Here in France, after last June's parliamentary elections, women were elected to 223 out of 577 seats to the National Assembly. In fact, a record figure. But 6 months on, are their voices being well and truly heard? Apparently not, as this report reveals.
Last June, François de Rugy boasted of a fresh new assembly.
So many new faces, more women, young people, diversity.
Though we can see these new faces, does that mean their voices are being heard? We counted the words spoken by men and women in the National Assembly. 1,320,000 words uttered by women. Compare that to 3,360,000 by men. Proportionally, male MPs speak 62% more than females. In Emmanuel Macron's Republic on the Move party, there are an equal number of men and women, a promise from the president during legislative elections.
Half of these candidates will be women, because we think it's a good thing.
Despite the good intentions, male MPs in the Republic on the Move group still speak more than twice as often as women.
Men are a bit more audacious, so male MPs use statements that aren't necessarily backed by evidence.
In Jean-Luc Mélenchon's France Unbowed movement, there are nearly as many female MPs as there are males. A strict adherence to gender equality is even written into their program. But in the National Assembly, women speak only half as much.
Many women feel less legitimate or have trouble speaking, more trouble speaking in public. So that's what we need to work on.
The parliamentary group with the biggest gap? The Communists. Men speak 3 times more than women. But the Communist group leader has a good excuse.
We have 3 women in our group, 2 of whom are in the same commission. Marie-Georges Buffet and Elsa Faucillon. For the time being, the 2 commissions they're on have had practically 0 text to study.
One big reason female MPs might speak less than males? The heads of the 7 parliamentary groups, who are in charge of dividing up speaking time, are, you guessed it, all men. There is one parliamentary group where women have managed to seize the mic: the Socialists. Female socialist MPs speak just as much as their male counterparts.
And staying in France, and while the number of female politicians is on the rise, that's not the case with women students in the fields of science and technology. In fact, quite the opposite. In 2010, 28% of science students in undergrad and graduate schools were female. In 2015, that figure dropped to just 25%. So to help change that, a few popular female YouTubers are now creating videos featuring female scientists.
Behind the scenes at a music streaming platform, Jimena Royo-Letelier makes algorithms, complex mathematical formulas that can recognize all your music tastes through digital data.
For example, if we know that a user loves jazz and blues, we can automatically find jazz and blues songs in our catalog. We can recommend them and say, you want to listen to this, because it's similar to what you're already listening to.
Royo-Letelier is a doctor in applied math at Deezer. She's surrounded by researchers, engineers, and mathematicians, all of them men. Of the team of 10 software developers, she is the only woman.
When we see scientific shows, there are very few women speaking about science. So I think there's a whole culture and society that's oriented towards the idea that girls don't do this kind of job.
It's kind of a vicious circle. Because it's seen as a male-dominated industry, girls are discouraged from breaking into it. So the more those ideas are propagated, the less girls there are.
To encourage young girls to choose scientific careers like she did, Royo Letelier participates in this video campaign on the internet.
Salut YouTube, j'espère que tu vas bien.
She's interviewed by Lola Dubini, a French YouTuber with a large teen following.
Jimena, you're going to tell us a bit more about your job.
Often girls have the tendency to value themselves less than boys.
I agree with you.
Lola has almost 3 million views on her YouTube channel. 6 so-called influencers like her agreed to take part in this project, organized by a private foundation in partnership with the French Ministry of Education. With this video, Lola hopes to inspire her 250,000 subscribers.
This is an issue I've always cared about. Talking about girls and women's right to do what they want to do is super important. Because I'm a woman. I have a voice in the media, on social media, a voice that I was given, and I'd like to use it to show other girls that it's possible.
So what does her target audience think? These middle schoolers are conscious of these differences between girls and boys. But to one day become an engineer, that's another story.
What she said is true, I think, that there are more men in scientific fields, but that shouldn't be the case.
Someone who sees this and hasn't decided what they want to be yet might be encouraged.
This video won't make me want to become a scientist.
In France, only 27% of girls go to engineering school. According to a study from the Ministry for Higher Education and Research, gender equality in the field won't be achieved until 2075.
And that's it for now. You can connect with us, of course, via our Facebook page, that being France24.51%, or do send us a tweet at _51%. Thanks for your feedback so far. And yes, please do keep those comments and suggestions coming in. So until our next show, bye for now.